So we have now seen documents where Sony has responded to the CMA to talk about their concerns with Microsoft purchasing Activision Blizzard. I've gone through this document. It's a very long document and highlighted the points that they made that I found the most interesting, for lack of a better term. There's a lot to go over. This might end up being a two-parter because it's like a 20-page document. So let's dive in right now. Thank you so much for watching, everybody. Please hit that subscribe button, hit that bell to know when my content goes live. I greatly appreciate you doing so. So getting right into it, we want to look at this document, and these are some of Sony's responses to the CMA. CMA, yeah, right? The transaction is a game changer that poses a threat to an industry enjoyed by hundreds of millions of consumers. Activision's content, in particular, its blockbuster franchise Call of Duty, one of the most successful franchises of all time, that for 20 years has consistently been the largest annualized AAA premium franchise in the games market, is irreplaceable for gaming platforms, as the decision found it is especially important for attracting gamers to the platform, and its importance cannot be captured by market shares alone. The transaction would put this content under Microsoft's sole control, giving it an unprecedented advantage at a point when the industry is at a critical inflection point in its evolution. Yes, Call of Duty is very popular, but I don't think that Microsoft owning Call of Duty is any different than, I don't know, Sony owning something like Spider-Man or Sony owning something like God of War Ragnarok. Yes, they built those from the ground up, but let's be honest here. If they were able to purchase Call of Duty, they would have done so. They just couldn't afford Activision. Sony as a company doesn't have enough revenue to make a purchase like that. But if this deal gets broken up, you know who's going to be at that table bidding on Call of Duty? PlayStation. You know what they're going to do with it? They're going to make it exclusive. So anyway, let's dive back in. Post-transaction, Microsoft would have the ability and incentive to exclude or restrict rivals, including PlayStation and PlayStation Plus, from having access to Call of Duty. The CMA found Microsoft has a pattern of acquiring development studios and making their upcoming games exclusive to Xbox. Given the significance of Activision's titles, Microsoft would have an even stronger incentive to make them exclusive to Xbox and Game Pass post-transaction. In fact, Microsoft does not contest that it intends making Activision content exclusive to Game Pass and denying PlayStation Plus access to that content. Now, I don't know that they have actually said they would deny PlayStation Plus access, but that obviously is a reasonable conclusion to make. But they talk about the ability and incentive to exclude or restrict rivals, including PlayStation and PlayStation Plus, from having access to Call of Duty. Now, they've already said we're going to give you 10 years of access for Call of Duty. They have that in writing. They've said it verbally. That has been extended to PlayStation, and PlayStation has not agreed to it. Now, should they exclude or restrict rivals, including PlayStation? PlayStation's only worried about themselves. Xbox, they don't care where Call of Duty is. They want it as a revenue generator. I think the other IPs under the Activision Blizzard license are more likely their target to make exclusive to the Xbox platform. And Sony's not really piping up about those. Like some of them, even their own companies created. So that's really interesting. Consumers would be harmed. In the short term, PlayStation users would no longer have access to Call of Duty. That's just flat out incorrect. There's no reason why Call of Duty would suddenly disappear off of PlayStation, or why PlayStation users would no longer have access to it. That's just flat out incorrect. That makes no sense. So anyway, they would no longer have access to Call of Duty, or would be forced to spend £450 on an equivalent Xbox to play this hugely popular game on their less preferred device. Kind of like when I have to play games like God of War or Spider-Man on the PlayStation, which is my less preferred device. That's just competition in the market. I don't think that is compelling evidence for the CMA to say, oh, they have an unfair advantage or they have a monopoly. That is just competition. It's totally fine that Sony does it. I wouldn't think it would be crazy if Xbox does it. Now, Xbox has even gone as far as to say Call of Duty will not be exclusive. So when they say something like they would have to buy an Xbox to play it, no, they wouldn't. They could still play it on PlayStation. And if they love PlayStation so much for their fantastic games like God of War, etc., I've mentioned them enough times, but they're going to continue playing on PlayStation. What would actually happen, in my opinion, is the market would even out. And a lot of those people who aren't just the hardcore fanboys who don't want to pay $70, they probably will make that jump to Xbox, assuming Xbox keeps the price point of Game Pass reasonable and the price point of their game is reasonable, though they have mentioned increasing those prices. They continue on here. In the midterm, a significant number of PlayStation users would likely switch to Xbox and or Game Pass. Faced with weaker competition, Microsoft would be able to increase console and game prices for Xbox users, including those that had switched from PlayStation, increase the price of Game Pass, and reduce innovation and quality. Now, I take a little bit of an issue with how they phrase that because those are things that PlayStation has already done. They've already increased the price of their console. There's no incentive for Xbox to reduce innovation and quality in their properties. Like if they continue down that path, then eventually people will stop playing and they will go over to PlayStation or Nintendo, people that keep quality of the utmost importance. So I don't agree with that statement. Competition would be harmed. PlayStation's and Xbox incentives to invest in innovation and quality improvements depend on the number of customers that competition can attract. Microsoft's foreclosure strategy will lock in many consumers to Xbox, including existing Xbox users who play Call of Duty and those switching from PlayStation to play Call of Duty. Those locked-in users will become less likely to switch in response to any pre-competitive actions on SIE's part. This would effectively prevent SIE from competing for the business of a large portion of console gamers, reducing its incentives to invest. In this way, as the decision found, Microsoft's strategy would materially affect Sony's ability to compete. That's just utter nonsense. PlayStation could do a lot of things. They could go day and date with their PlayStation Plus games. You know that would drive a lot of revenue to that platform. They've had record-breaking revenue. They have record-breaking console sales right now. It's just absolute nonsense that if Call of Duty was still on PlayStation, and it will be, that they're just going to pack up their bags and go home. That's just BS. We all know that's BS. PlayStation is here for the long haul. They're not going to be going anywhere. So, yeah. Not buying it, Sony. Any of these have my notes? Okay. Independent developers will be harmed. Now, this I really, really liked. As Microsoft foreclosed PlayStation and PlayStation Plus, it would likely become a critical distribution channel for independent developers. It already is, first of all. In that weakened negotiating position, independent developers would likely receive worse terms for their content from Microsoft or even be required to promise exclusivity in return for its distribution, thereby diminishing independent developers' ability to and incentive to invest in high quality new games. This in turn would also harm consumers even further. I keep saying customers instead of consumers. Like what Sony is actually describing is what they have done to independent developers during their height. So now they have to eat a little bit of humble pie and say, oh, well, Microsoft could do exactly what we have done. And if you look, independent developers have said PlayStation is hard to work with. They've said things like, okay, I'm mad enough to burn some bridges because honestly, what's the point of a bridge that I am not allowed to cross? So here's a thread about Platform X. He's talking about PlayStation. I will not be defining Platform X, but it's the operator of a very successful console. It does not have Game Pass. Platform X gives developers no ability to manage their games. In order to get promotion, you must jump through hoops, beg and plead for any level of promotion, and it goes on and on. I have a whole video about this. You can check it out right up here. All right, here's another developer. All right, I'm going to unfortunately throw my hat in there as well. We love our Platform X friends, and I'm former Platform X employee myself, but we cannot move the needle on the platform. Less than 3% of sales as a company are on Platform X. So bear in mind, we're way smaller on the grand scheme of things, and Matt White's Whitethorn Games has a different audience than we do, but this speaks heaps about how Platform X ain't doing it. So you want to talk about negatively impacting independent developers? Clean your own house first. This has been ongoing, and thank God for Shuhei Yoshida, who has actually been working on the storefront and working with these independent developers to get them better placement on the store. But for you to like be calling out Xbox with the concern that they're going to do the same thing that you have done in the 2021 year, it's just absolutely ridiculous. And going back to the Call of Duty point, I made this tweet earlier. I'm like one paragraph in, and it's already amazing. Post-transaction, Microsoft would have the ability and incentive to exclude or restrict rivals, including PlayStation and PlayStation Plus, from having access to Call of Duty. The open beta for Call of Duty was exclusive to PlayStation. It came to Xbox weeks later. That incentivizes people to buy Call of Duty on the PlayStation brand. Now, Xbox did this in the 360 era. PlayStation's having their heyday now, but to act like it never happens, it's just hypocritical. And that's why people just really do not like how PlayStation is coming at this. Exclusive benefits for PlayStation players. They have a Battle Pass bundle bonus. They have double XP points, combat packs, PlayStation Party bonus, extra loadouts. And then they even had the Call of Duty Modern Warfare exclusive survival mode. They had an exclusive mode for Call of Duty back for Modern Warfare. This is an old game. This is something that has been around forever. It's not ever going to go away. The fact that Xbox might do the exact same thing that PlayStation has been doing for years is not a reason to cancel the deal. So again, I don't find basically any single thing that we've read thus far from Sony a compelling argument to cancel the deal. They need a reason why why would Microsoft actively start hurting indie developers? Microsoft has been one of the most supported platforms of indie developers since I was in college for game design, for example. Like, they would offer it for free. There was the ID at Xbox program. Recently, there have been some weird things going on with it, though, so I'll give them that. But it has nothing to do with the Activision Blizzard deal. It has to do with Unity changing their policies, and now Xbox had to figure out some new deal with them so that they're not being charged for every independent developer to make their games. I don't know the status of that story, but I talked about it a while ago, and indie devs were mad. So here's one that's a little bit more interesting on PlayStation part. Activision's irreplaceable content. They could use Activision's irreplaceable content to leverage Microsoft's ecosystem advantages and thereby foreclose cloud gaming at a critical point of its evolution. Here's the thing about cloud gaming. You know who did it first? PlayStation. And they dropped the frickin' ball. It was awful. It was laggy. It was really hard to play those games. And they just launched it too early, and then they didn't foster it. They didn't support it. People always talk about how PlayStation fosters and supports these companies. Well, they totally whiffed it on having an online strategy. Microsoft invested in that, and they have built a really great thing. And now PlayStation's like, oh crap, that's the future. What did we do? They continue on, where Microsoft have unique advantages via its leading cloud platform, Azure, its highly successful gaming system, Xbox, and leading multi-game subscription service, Game Pass, and its dominant PC OS Windows as the future of gaming. PlayStation has hired Nixies. They're doing all their PC ports. Their PC ports are great. It's a huge revenue stream for them. So like this narrative that, okay, well, they own Windows, that has nothing to do with the Activision Blizzard deal. Mainly, in my opinion, they're saying, I don't even know what they're saying with that one. That one's a little bit odd. Did I have any notes on that particular one? Because now I'm starting to get into where I've left notes so that I could reference the tabs I have open. Microsoft's response to the decision claims that the CMA's case rests on self-serving statements by SIE, Microsoft paragraph 1.3. SIE statements are not self-serving. It's getting a little funny because they're like, no, it isn't. It is not. Like, it's a little childish, right? They reflect genuine and evidence concerns about a tech titan buying up irreplaceable content at incontestable prices. They're mad because they could not afford it. They were not able to purchase Bethesda. Actually, they probably could have put in a bid for Bethesda based on how much they paid for Bungie, but they either lost it or that deal was never on the table for them and Microsoft got that one. This one, yes. This is one where they had no chance. They just don't have the capital to buy something that big. The decision does not rest only on statements made by SIE, but rather on a wide body of evidence from other third parties, internal documents, business data, economic analysts, and Microsoft's own conduct. That explains Microsoft's strategy and the anti-competitive effects the transaction would have. And I said, see clip on this one. Investment in exclusive content is and always has been very important for the competitive dynamics in the console segment. Exclusive content was most likely one of the main factors responsible for positioning PlayStation as a leader in the world console market for more than 2 decades, a leadership that continues to this day. So PlayStation again saying, don't do what we did. Don't do what we did, because it works and we know it works. And for the first time, we're actually going to have to reevaluate how we've been treating our customers, how we've been charging them, like the upselling strategies where you have to pay for upgrading your game to play on the PlayStation 5, being the first to the market with the most expensive games, things like that. And those are challenges that they're going to have to address. Like, they're not going to be able to get out of it. I think I'm going to stop there. We're at 16 minutes and I want to keep my viewer retention on the channel. So I'm going to break this into a 2-parter. This is part 1. We're going to continue on. There's a lot more to go over. We go into the theory of harm after this. So we'll go to their conclusion for this segment, and then we'll go to their theory of harm segment. So if you like my content, please hit that subscribe button, hit that bell to know when it goes live. Thank you so much for watching. I greatly appreciate it. If you want to become a member, memberships are turned on. Thank you so much to all the members for supporting this work. If you want to become one, you can click that join button. It's right there. Thank you so much for watching, everybody. I'll see you for the next one. Stick around. I'll link to it over here when it's live. For now, you can see the original comments from the CMA right here. Also, it's a good starter because these are Sony's responses to that original document. All right, I'll see you for the next one. Bye for now. Whoops. Bye.